Live and in studio on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS, your real estate and financial experts, making sure you win in every market. Your financial partners, Don and Gino.
Welcome back to the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Please don't forget to join us at donandgino.com, where you can watch, chat, and listen with us live. And if you have any questions for our guests, please do so at donandgino@gmail.com. And today is no different. Our guest today is a wealth of knowledge. In fact, we were discussing some things on the break that I had absolutely no clue about. I had heard some of the terminology, but I really hadn't gotten into the particulars and really figured out who it's good for, who it's not good for, and who needs it. So we're going to do that a little bit today, Steve. Don't you think that's a good plan?
That's a good plan, and I think our listeners are going to get a better perspective on what really is happening with the deadline looming of getting online with the California healthcare plan.
So let's go back into that real quick. What we were discussing was healthcare reform, and specifically we were talking about covered California. I know that that's something that so now we've all kind of made it past the everybody called it Obamacare. Now we've just called it healthcare reform, and we know that it's changed. So now we've talked about some of the changes, one of them being guaranteed issue, even if you have pre-existing conditions. I think that's good. Of course, it raised rates for everybody else, but that's it's a good thing overall. Then the other thing that happened is the subsidy, and this is what we were just talking about. So there's a potential to get a government subsidy on the cost of insurance. Is that correct, Scott?
That is correct. If your income is low enough as an individual or a family, you can get subsidy. Some families are getting 100% of it paid by the government. Some individuals are getting paid, 100% down to 50, 20%. But all you need to do is go to coveredca.com, plug in your information. It'll tell you what your subsidy is if it is available to you.
And so what you mentioned to me, which was really enlightening, was that you could still get Cigna Healthcare, or you could still get Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Anthem, maybe even Kaiser. I don't know, whoever you're still comfortable with, but utilize Covered California as a vehicle to see if you're entitled to any subsidies. Is that right? That's
right. Not all the plans are on there, okay, but a lot of the big plans are on there. A lot of the big companies, but you can go on there. Kaiser happens to be one of the biggest ones because the network of doctors you go to any Kaiser facility and it's covered. But you can go. You go on there. I think the main thing to just remember is you want to do it by the end of the month. If not, then you will not be able to get onto the plan until the beginning of next year.
Okay, so that'll be January next year.
Yes.
So I have a question. When you go online and you fill out the application,
mm-hmm,
and you make your declarations on your income and everything else they ask you, what can the consumer and listener expect to have to do to back up that information?
Really, they don't really have to do anything, because when you apply online, the government has it's a government plan, so they're going to see all your information, your Social Security. They're going to when you file your taxes, they're going to see everything. So what you put online is your income. You better be able to justify it, because if it's over what you said it actually is, the government will come back and bill you for the difference. So you want to be really, really close to what you're actually making.
Yeah, and you want to base that on your tax returns.
Right.
Okay. Well, that's great. That's really great advice, because I got to tell you, I didn't think Covered California was for regular insurance. I didn't realize that it was a vehicle through which you could still obtain regular insurance. I thought it was going to be inferior insurance provided by California.
Well, having said that, I don't want to. It's actually a really good thing, but the network of doctors on the PPO side, the PPO preferred provider organizations, the network of doctors on those plans seem to be very small, small. But if your income is low and you can qualify for that subsidy and you don't have insurance, who's going to be so picky about how big the network of doctors are? You need insurance, you should get it. If you don't get it, by the way, if you don't take it, then you're going to get penalized in your taxes for not having insurance. So either way, you should be doing something, or you're going to pay for it anyway.
And the best thing is to do it by, what's the cutoff date?
The end of this month.
March 31st?
March 31st.
Right.
Wow, so there's not a lot of time left.
How's the system functioning now? Is it still impacted? Is the system functioning? What can the listener expect?
Covered California the website it's a mess. It really is a mess. But if you spend your time and just do what you need to do, you'll get on. It's just not an easy process. And that leads to a good point, actually. If you can afford regular insurance and you're not going to get subsidized by the government, you can always go outside. The premiums are the same if you go outside or go inside the plan. Covered California, I'm saying, is inside. You can go outside to regular plans that are not inside Covered California. It can be the same exact companies, actually. But the difference is the application on coveredcalifornia.com is 37 pages. And if you just buy regular insurance outside, it's about 6 or 7 pages. It's very easy because it's a guaranteed issue.
So really, you're only going to be going to Covered CA if you don't have a substantial income, right? If you believe that your income is low enough to help you qualify for a subsidy.
It will make the most sense, yes. If you're gonna pay the same premium because the premiums are the same, you're better off going outside because it's a much easier process.
And we talk a lot about this here on the show, Scott, and we're with Scott Zimmerman of Corporate Strategies, and this is actually a strategy I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to apply. If you're not going to have a subsidy, why not reach out to a professional and work with someone like you that'll help them find the best plan? Because even now that everybody has the availability to go to all of these different insurance companies that they didn't have access to in the past, maybe because of a pre-existing condition, you can help make sure they're getting the best medical treatment and still at a good rate now that rates have been equalized to some sort of extent.
Yes, yes, and but the rates are equal. The rates are everybody pays the same thing. So,
the interesting thing, being a user of insurance in California and having a family and having had the need to use insurance, on a regular basis, and having a pretty significant health issue a couple of years ago, what can we expect from a user perspective on billing changes? Are they cleaning up that part of it, or is it still going to be in the same condition, do you think?
Well, I haven't seen any changes yet, but it seems to be running very well. Most of the bigger carriers, the Blues, the Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Health Nets, they pay these claims very fast. Then usually 6 to 15 days usually. So it seems to have improved over the years. So I haven't really seen any changes since, but it's running pretty well.
Interesting. That's good. Well, that's good news.
Yeah.
Any improvement in that area is welcome, I'm sure. Anybody's been through a serious health issue, and the multitude of bills that they stack up, and the documentation that comes through, the EOBs and the invoices matching up. It's crazy, man.
It's interesting you say that, because until my grandfather had some substantial issues, I never really knew how things worked at some of the hospitals. And then when you find out that, St. Joseph's, large hospital, right, part of the Providence Care system, the way it works is you get billed separately by the hospital, separately by the anesthesiologist, separately by the doctor, separately by the group that supplied XYZ, and then separately by the pharmacy. So it's not like the image that I always had of the hospital in the past, where the hospital sends you one bill. It's a bunch of subcontractors, and the hospital's just the place you stay.
Right.
Well, and the big issue with that is miscoding. The miscoding phenomenon is large, and it bears people taking notice, because a miscoded item on an invoice could make the difference between your insurance company paying benefits and not. Certainly, miscoding also leads to overcharging. It's crazy. And I really relish the idea of having a professional for hire that could take a mountain of documentation and look through it and make sure that the coding's right, the billing's right, that the consumer is getting what they're entitled to in their policy, and that the insurance company's paying what they're supposed to pay.
Absolutely. We have one person in our office that literally goes through bills all day, because it's so confusing. Like you said, Steve, you get a bill, and then you have to wait for the EOB explanation of benefits. You have to match them, and sometimes they don't match, and things are different on there. So we have one person that literally does this full time. I would hate to have that job. But anyway.
Well, it's quite an art.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it really is an art. I mean, if you've seen anybody do it in action, it's really and those individuals have connections within the industry because they can they talk to these these insurance companies all the time, and they have friends like we do in our respective businesses on how to get things done and that kind of stuff. So I think it's a great service that you guys provide.
Thank you.
And Scott, how do they get a hold of you if they need help with their health insurance?
Telephone number is 818-377-7270.
Well, fantastic. When we get back, we're actually going to talk about a couple of different kinds of insurance. One in particular that I don't think enough of us have maybe looked into, don't know if it's reasonable for us, don't know if it's important for us, and that's long-term care.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think you may be interested or someone you know or love needs long-term care, stick around with the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show.